So when people talk about the grizzly bear being the perfect animal for 1v1 debates, yeah, they're not exactly wrong. It's got that I can steal the Krabby Patty formula without anybody stopping me type of energy. And honestly, there's really no carnivores in the American realm trying to start some beef with it. The grizzly might be the Thanos of North America right now, but is it really the king of this continent throughout all of Earth's history? Well, let's go prehistoric people. And no, we're not pulling out the T-Rex here because that just turned the bear into a free sample. Instead, let's bring in everyone's favorite nightmare, the Utahraptor. Yeah, the real life raptor that made the Jurassic Park ones look like an emotional support chicken. So what would happen if a grizzly bear decided to throw claws and 1v1 a Utahraptor? Well, on one side, you've got a furry demolition unit straight out of a Joe Rogan fever dream, an animal that shrugs off bullets and chases down horses for cardio. And on the other, we got the largest raptor to ever exist, packing 9-inch claws that look like they were designed by a medieval weapons dealer to ruin an animal's day. Both of these carnivores are built to turn prey into past tense and can run you down like you owe them rent. So this of course makes our human minds wonder, who would actually win in a fight between a grizzly bear and a Utahraptor? Well, I plan to answer that question using scientific reasoning and not to waste y'all's time with a 50-50 nonsense response. I got you. But anyways, let's establish some ground rules here for this fight. Let's say both the grizzly bear and Utahraptor are healthy adult males in their prime and want to duke it out. So no saying that one would get scared off. They are fighting, okay? Let's also assume this brawl takes place on an open field. So pretty even ground here, right? Anyways, let's now see who wins this fight. Size and physique. First up, we got the grizzly bear, aka the walking middle finger to our concept of logic. Yeah, grizzlies are the type of beast that make bear spray a thing in stores. In fact, they're so strong that they've been known to knock over 700-pound dumpsters with ease, drag buffalo carcasses through deep snow, and literally shrug off shots from a gun as if it was a suggestion. Yeah, that level of durability seems to be a glitch in nature that didn't get patched. So no wonder why Joe Rogan is obsessed with them. But just how large is a grizzly? Well, it totally depends on the location. You see, the most common ones are called Interior Grizzlies and are said to average around 600 pounds for mature males. But the really big bears, you know, the ones that can actually steal the Krabby Patty formula without any resistance, are the coastal brown bears of Alaska, which are said to straight up average around 860 pounds. But I'm not here to talk about size, people, because it ain't everything, right? It's really how these creatures are built that set them apart. Essentially, there's a reason why their scientific nickname literally translates to the terrible brown bear. A grizzly body is basically a demolition unit wrapped in fur. We're talking about a wide, compact build with robust bones to support whatever chaos it wants. And let's not forget about its armor. Grizzlies have very thick, loose fur that is built on top of a dense layer of fat that acts as shock absorbers. This is perfect for making claws slip and bear bites failing to reach vital organs. And on top of that, you see that shoulder hump? Yeah, that's pure muscle engineered for flipping over boulders and wrestling anything dumb enough to simply pick a fight. Yeah, so they definitely define the whole word durability when it comes to animals under 1,000 pounds. But is that enough to stop the largest raptor's claws from digging in? Well, let's move on to the Utahraptor, aka the one back scratcher any animal regrets having on them. Y'all have seen the Jurassic Park / World movies, and I gotta say, this dinosaur is more terrifying than any raptor in the film. And it's feathered, by the way. The Utahraptor lived during the early Cretaceous in prehistoric Utah, hence its name, and it ate anything in its GPS coordinates, like our buddy the iguanodon. And it wasn't some slender, shrink-wrapped Jurassic Park raptor either. This thing was pretty chunky. Recent studies show that the Utahraptor had ridiculously powerful legs, a wide stance, low rotational inertia with its very long tail acting as a stabilizer. So translation, it did not skip leg day. This thing could pivot and sidestep like a ballerina from the underworld. And just to remind you, this raptor was nearly 20 feet long and could stare at the average man eye to eye. So just how heavy was the Utahraptor? Well, according to the most recent reconstructions, an average fully grown adult was estimated to weigh anywhere between 860 to 1,200 pounds. So this means that it actually outweighed an interior grizzly by a decent amount and matches, if not edges out, the coastal brown bear. So yeah, the Utahraptor isn't the underdog here and brings with it a little more mass, more reach, and talons that can puncture a prey's armor like a can opener. But here's the catch. The raptor wasn't built like a bear. Its bones were hollow and air-filled compared to the grizzly bear's solid mammal bones, meaning it had a lighter skeleton overall and traded its just brute force density for balance and stability. This means that it just couldn't simply absorb raw impact the same way a grizzly could, but what it lacked in padding, it made up for with leverage. You see, its tall bipedal stance and long legs would give it the ability to strike downwards on the grounded bear and simply pivot out of danger quickly. So right now, we're looking at a duel between sheer durability backed with the attitude of a bulldozer versus a precision striker with railroad spikes for hands and feet. But how do they actually throw claws though? Who fights better and what are their weapons looking like? Well, this brings me on to my last point, which is weaponry and fighting IQ. Alright, we already know that these are two ultra dangerous carnivores that deserve every bit of reputation, but how they would fight and their individual advantages are actually quite interesting. So first, the grizzly bear. We get it. This is a biological demolition unit, but when it's time to throw down, what is it exactly doing and bringing to the 1v1? Well, a grizzly's offense is very front-loaded. We're talking about bursty charges, strong four-limb swats, and a bone-crunching bite of 1200 psi. Basically, grizzlies are expert grapplers like a Joe Rogan fever dream. Essentially, they're massive shoulders, squared like hips, and huge dinner plate sized paws make them very stable. And on top of that, when they collide into each other to wrestle, they often like to do full body tackles to shake and off balance their opponents. And once they got leverage, that's when the pain really starts. So their whole goal is basically to pin down their victims and bite whatever body part that's in front of them, often shaking their heads violently to fracture a limb even more. And not to glaze the bear here, but they've got some of the best endurance in the animal kingdom right now. These bears have been seen fighting for over 10 minutes straight and basically has that Captain America I can go all day type of cardio. But can the bear's brute strength handle a dinosaur armed with claws that would make Freddy Krueger proud? What's the Utahraptor bringing to the table? Well, for starters, it had talents that look like they belong in a medieval torture museum. Each of their feet carried a massive 9-inch curved killing claw on the second toe. And by the way, it was shaped for puncturing rather than slicing. Yes, the studies on these raptors show that their feet were optimized to pierce and clamp, much like how eagles restrain prey. And once it's hooked in, the rest of the body follows through. It stabs their victims with their hands to lock in, bites them with their insanely powerful 2000 psi jaw strength, and kicks them with those 9-inch claws. So instead of the Jurassic Park slashing, it was more like a hawk tackling prey and diving the talons deeper each time the victim struggled. Oh no, speaking of the whole biting thing, by the way, the raptor once again is leading the way. So while the grizzly's jaws crush around with an incredible 1200 psi, scaling studies suggest the raptor could bite down with roughly 2000 psi. But it's not just about the strength, people. It's about the design. The bear's skull is wide and compact, specifically built to apply brute, bone-crunching pressure over a short area with its canine teeth. The Utahraptor skull, on the other hand, is a lot longer and attached to a swoopier neck, which gives it better reach and faster strikes, kind of like a snapping grip meant to tear and hold. So while the bear crushes with its canines, the raptor punctures with its sharper, flatter teeth. But to bring it back full circle on how the bear and raptor's postures play into a fight, the Utah's stabilizing tail, along with its tall bipedal stance, meant the raptor could strike downwards and angle off, keeping its core centered. And against a grizzly, that's huge because the bear's most dangerous attack, its full tackle or wrestling throws, require direct chest-to-chest contact. Basically, the raptor's longer reach, which is aided by its arms and longer neck, along with its higher hips and great lateral agility, makes the bear's tackle much harder to land while also reducing the raptor's exposure to those nasty bear swats. But is that enough? Can the bear just simply muscle through, out-wrestle the raptor, and throw it down to show why mammals once again rule? Or could the Utahraptor use its leverage advantage, its massive claws, and better agility to take the W? Well, people, I think it's about time we determine a verdict. Alright, we have our stats. So who would win in a fight between a grizzly bear and a Utahraptor? Well, given all the information presented, I see the Utahraptor winning more often than not. But I do gotta admit, a 1v1 with the coastal brown bear would be a very close one for the raptor. Now, I'm not saying it's gonna be a very easy fight for the raptor, but I mean, we do gotta admit its advantages here, right? It just simply has that size advantage and that proper leverage to kind of just negate what the bear tries to do best. It's full body charge, right? I mean, where would the bear kind of grapple up and lock in, right? Wherever the bear decides to try to attack, it'd be first greeted with the Utahraptor's nasty bite with its longer skull, and then be dug into with the raptor's claws. So upon first contact, I see the bear kind of trying to charge straight in, and the raptor has the legs and posture to properly sidestep rather than just trying to absorb the full hit. And when that happens, the Utahraptor would try to hop onto the bear, driving in its massive toe claws and hand claws to clamp onto or near the thigh/rib region, kind of that groin area. That's how it usually immobilizes prey and whatnot. And once that's locked in, with its greater just simple mass, it could kind of ride the bear down, eventually just jam the bear to a three-legged stance, simply just break the mobility of the bear, kind of make it kind of fall over and topple over, right? They're not really the most agile creatures and have a hard time fighting off their back. So from there, how I see the raptor finishing the fight would be repeated stabs with its toe claws and a tearing bite to simply the ribs or neck or wherever it decides to latch onto. And the Utahraptor's likely propensity to target the rear area, which is very rich in blood vessels and nerves, would play it more and more into its favor. Now, I do recognize that the grizzly bear has insane amounts of durability, but I mean the Utahraptor's claws, like literally 9-inch curved claws that could take down iguanodons, which were a lot larger than the grizzly bear, but likely at the very bare minimum, make it so that it can actually kind of secure a good grip on the bear itself. So perhaps a polar bear would have better luck. Well, that's a topic for a different video. But yeah, anyways, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, let me know what you think in the comments, and feel free to check out the rest of my content.